In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
We're still here, Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. It's not every day that you can get the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs into the studio, not just explaining, but also willing to take questions from the audience. And that is why we are very happy to extend the program this morning. We will be here until 11 o'clock if we have to, and then at 11 o'clock we will leave the studio only because Imam Sheikh Tijan Cham, who launched his program last week, will be here to continue the conversation on Muslim marriages during the month of Ramadan. Just to confirm that we have started receiving your questions, and we will go through them, as many as we can, but we still have some unfinished business. During the break, it occurred to me that there was also the outstanding matter of the millions of euros that were taken from the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, an entity I insist government has no business dipping its hands into its funds because it doesn't contribute, in order to buy buses. I'm sure you heard you heard the claim. How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much. Yes, of course, I do hear that government, I don't know whether force or insisted or took Social Security money to buy buses, which is far from reality. What actually happened was Social Security, first let's establish the relationships. Social Security is principally funded by the employees through their contribution, but of course underwritten by government.
Private sector employees.
But underwritten by government. Last of my life, anything happens and Social Security goes insolvent, government will have to come and do a bailout. Yes, it's underwritten. So okay. That is the relationship. That's why there is government oversight. That's why it is, like, for example, we can say it's a company limited by guarantee, sort of, whereby the shareholder, you do not put money, but because of underwritten commitment that you have towards that company, you take
like
ownership.
You're the guarantor.
Yes, you are the guarantor. That's why government ownership comes in. But it's not in the form of any cash injection. Okay. Just to clarify that.
That educates even me.
Yes, that's what you have different type of companies. You have companies by incorporation, by shareholding payment, and companies limited by guarantee. That's the type of relationship. And also to distinguish that GTSC is 100% subsidiary of Social Security.
In other words, owned by Social Security.
100% wholly. So transactions between GTSC and Social Security are parent-subsidiary relationship. Government, in its oversight role, can look at void or issues in the economy and direct an entity like Social Security to say, please do this. But that doesn't mean government is dictating. It's identifying a gap that needs to be addressed, and Social Security can be encouraged to. But of course, Social Security has to do their own due diligence, verify to make sure it can be done, because it's an investment. And the particular issue here is parent-subsidiary relationship with government of the transaction. So when that transaction was consummated, which was about 9 million euros, we had that translate to 70 buses. At the particular moment in time, I'm sure the audience will take note, there used to be transport strike all the time in this country. School buses were not regularly available. Not to talk of underserved communities. So government is all about service delivery. That is why, in his wisdom, it was directed that Social Security...
In whose wisdom?
The president, the leadership of the executive, to say, look, Social Security can do this because this is a subsidiary that you're managing and they are in the transport sector. And don't forget, GTSC, prior to this transaction, have on their own account purchased buses and they are rendering services, but the bus fleet was not enough. That was why government literally, we can say theory, practically advised Social Security to do this. And that came to 70 buses for 9 million euros. So the issue is they said government should have, took a loan. There is no financial transaction between the government and Social Security or GTSC in this transaction. It is purely resources from Social Security to GTSC to procure buses. Government is only sitting as a big brother overseeing the...
And whatever profits GTSC makes
is GTSC goes to Social Security. That is the transaction.
Okay.
So, in addition to the 70 buses, consistent with the president's vision to say that social service is a key pillar of his agenda, government on its own account bought 30 buses and delivered that to social...
Without taking a single butut from
our own
Social
resources.
Security.
That's from government resources.
Okay.
30 buses, that translates to $4.5 million. So the fleet that we are talking about is 100 buses. 70 financed by Social Security, 30 financed by the government. And what happens when this issue of recoverability happens, the discussion was, I was asked this question. We said, look, this transaction is between a parent and a subsidiary. But knowing that public transport globally is subsidized, government in its wisdom, and in fact this decision was made by His Excellency the President, felt that, look, we should come to the support of Social Security. And we will, GTSC, because these buses are not run for free. The buses are making money.
Yes.
So when you have 30 buses that is procured for you, so government decided to write off 50% of its own buses and will support 50% of the share of the Social Security investment in those buses. And we are very pleased with the outcome so far. School buses are available, University of the Gambia buses are available, and underserved communities have access to bus service. For the first time, in the URR, you have bus services. I understand today you can have people from Wuli coming to Basse for shopping and going back to Wuli to cook for the day. All through this GTS.
Previously, it wasn't possible.
When you look at investment, any pension fund, you invest to preserve your asset base in order to defray the obligation of your future pension obligation. But in return, you also do social services. This is what we call corporate social responsibility. So it is not that government has gone to Social Security, dipped their hands into the monies and said, we'll buy buses. No, the transaction had no party to government. It was between Social Security and GTSC, and if they want any inquiry, they can even ask Social Security and GTSC, how were the buses procured? They have all their procurement documents. Government was not a party to the transaction. All government role was nudge Social Security to say, this is a void in society, please fill it this way. And we are pleased, since this fleet has been in operation, we have not had any transport strike. Before these buses, sometimes I remember we used to be called, oh, there will be a transport strike by the transporters. That is not the case. So it has satisfied a social need in a financially responsible manner, and government conditions with the social nature of the transaction has come in to subsidize to the tune of 50%. Fantastic. So I don't see where the outreach of government dipping its hand into the pockets of pensioners' money.
All right.
I was even instructed that I should pay the loan. I said, which loan? How would I have contracted a loan without it being ratified?
Well, you just mentioned 50 there. We're going now to the questions coming from the listeners. Good morning, Uncle Peter. Kindly ask the Honourable Minister to highlight on the financial gain of the Gambia government from the Senegambia Bridge since its mortgage to Africa 50.
Well, thank you very much. We have received the first tranche of the disbursement, which was 15 million, and the subsequent tranche is expected shortly. The toll infrastructure is being built, and we believe once the operations start in earnest, government will benefit from increased employment of Gambians. We'll have tax revenues that will accrue to us, and we are shareholder in the company, in the SPV, will get 12.5% of any dividend accrued. These are the financial gains.
Assalamu alaikum, Uncle Peter. Can you ask the Minister how the budget implementation process is progressing so far? How is transparency and accountability for every penny of taxpayers' money being ensured, especially given the wasteful nature of public spending in this country?
Well, we're working on that. We are implementing the budget diligently. And in fact, the expenditure demands far exceed the resource envelope because mindful of the deficit level of the budget at only 1%, we have very limited room in terms of the revenue expenditure mismatch. So what we tend to do every month, we tend to allocate based on the revenue collected. That's why the budget is how the budget is implemented. And we are also trying to improve public expenditure management through digitalization. Now, not when we say public expenditure management, we are looking to make sure that there is value for money. The new GPPA Act has come into force, GPPA 2022, that has given enhanced transparency to the procurement process. And we are also trying our best to ensure that we are looking as close to source as is possible. Typically, one example is the procurement of textbooks. We have now engaged the government printer to be printing the textbooks instead of distributing it across different schools in the country. So in a nutshell, these are some of the reforms. And one area we are working on very well is to enforce the adoption of the Integrated Financial Management System, IFMIS, in the government finances. Because we all know when transactions are off the system, there is more tendency of it not being aligned to spending priorities.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, good luck with that.
Yes.
Good morning, Uncle Peter and Finance Minister. Thank you for your presence in the National Bantaba Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. Is that the new name of my program, National Bantaba? Question 1. The Finance Minister said remuneration is 110% over 8 years. What is the percentage cost of living over the same period? What is the percentage cost of living over the same period? And question 2, how many more national assets are there for this government to sell? Now I am worried. And they sign off 2026, Barrow must go. Obviously not a friend of the government, but let's deal with the questions.
Well,
110% over 8 years, what is the percentage cost of living over the same period?
Well, I will not be able to quantify how the cost of living has, because cost of living is a function of individual and family size. Mm-hmm. You know, generally we believe we've done well as a government to increase salary by this quantum over a short period of time. This is unprecedented. Regardless of the increase, elsewhere, what you think about when you talk about remuneration increase, basically you're talking about 3, 4, 5% max annually. But to max out 110, which is like 14% annually, is very much in line. In fact, historically, apart from the elevated inflation of 2024, our inflation was on the double digits. So safely, we could say the increase outstripped the inflation rate. Mm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And question number 2, how many more national assets are out there for he's using sell, I suppose?
I think what one people should understand, it's not the desire of government to sell these institutions if they are performing. Honestly. Ethiopian Airlines is a 100% owned company by the government of Ethiopia.
Yes.
And I don't think Ethiopia will ever think about selling it because it is performing. The issue that triggers this transaction to be considered is service delivery and performance. Because it's a double whammy. You keep it, look at what happened to Gamtel. As we speak, government is supporting their salary. How can we take...
Yeah, because government again is to be blamed, for liberalizing the gateway. I mean, that was the one thing they held on to. All these other GSM companies were paying to them while they were still doing good business. I mean, you liberalize the gateway, they are doing better business. And the question is government realizing more from liberalizing the gateway?
I think we look at this. In fact, for your information, Gamtel transaction is one transaction I looked at very closely. And I allocated a lot of time to read. I sat with the digital minister. What we realized was Gamtel is the backbone.
Yes.
The tariff that Gamtel set over the years has never been revised. All these years. If only Gamtel has revised those rates, they would have been in a financially better situation. Just look at NAWEC. I mean, their financial situation has improved, albeit compared to the past, through the tariff increase. So Gamtel tariff has not been revised.
Yeah, you could have advised them to increase.
No, but we only knew about it now, after the fact. And that's the role of management.
Yeah, but what about the gateway?
No, the gateway, I mean, globally, this liberalization is not unique to Gambia. I'm not a telecoms expert to look at how the gateway liberalization will affect the
because that's what they all cry about.
No, that's what they, but look at what happens elsewhere. Because you see, whatever is happening in Gambia is not unique to Gambia. If you go elsewhere, there is nothing called national telecom company. It's all in private hands. So how are they managing? You see, I don't have sector expertise to comment on the merits of the liberalization.
So Sonatel is now not run by the Senegalese government?
It's largely private investment in Sonatel.
Okay.
Orange is a major shareholder in
Sonatel.
Yes. Look, the way forward, this is not unique to us. This issue of keeping assets that are underperforming, under-delivering, and aborting, do you believe some of these parastatals, some of these public enterprises, are not even able to pay their tax obligation to the government?
Yeah, we know that.
So, it's not our desire. If any public asset is performing over and above what is expected or what a similar privately managed company, why would government consider even thinking selling it? Because you don't lay your goods that lay the gold. You don't sell your goods that lay or kill your goods that lay the golden egg.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are only about performance and results as a government. If anybody can bring this to the table, why not? I mean, it's not an individual decision, but this is the direction that, because I have mentioned for you litany of companies that have collapsed. And if we had taken the time to look at the opportunity cost to our national development, which came through the collapse of this institution. Imagine NTC was in operation. You think we'll be talking about price control? It would have been a big player in the market to be the market price setter.
Try reintroducing the NTC model.
Well, it has not worked. So if we reintroduce it through the public approach, it might not work again.
No, but
Peter, that is what it means. You see, in mathematics, that's what they call law of induction. You do something once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times, then you establish that the pattern. So if I have mentioned you 8 companies on the public ownership that have not performed, and you are now telling us introduce another one? Well, I don't think that's good advice.
Okay. Your colleague, Ibrahim Asila, remember that government also gets 4% of gross revenue of the concession annually. Explain that to...
well, you know, there are 2 types of returns.
Yeah, this is about the Banjul port, by the way.
Yes, this is a Banjul port. There are 2 types of returns. You have the top line, that is the gross revenue, which is 4%. And why 4%? Because the projections that was done indicate that the revenue will be increasing significantly under this new concession. And the shareholding will be in the dividends. So you'll have 2 returns. Return on the gross, as well as the share of the net profit, which is the 20% of the net profit, which will be distributable. But thank you, Honorable Silla, for just bringing that. That's another significant source of revenue to the government from this transaction.
A former minister, it's not Demba Jawo, because every time I say former minister, people think that it's Demba Jawo. This is not D.A. Jawo. Yes. Can you ask the Honorable Minister if the requisite consultative engagements from the social perspective were undertaken? This is about Sanyang now. If that was the case, I doubt if the residents of Sanyang would have been making the noise they are. Project finance requires that all the relevant prerequisites bordering on social, political, environmental, and commercial be undertaken before they even get to the negotiating phase of the project. As a country, we need to avoid all avenues that could lead us to the risk of future withdrawals from such projects when they either begin to fail or have new governments opting out of them on the basis of badly negotiated deals. Again, it's unfair to just lumber all this on you. This would have been best answered by Silla himself. He's listening. He might just want to. Silla, you've heard the question. I guess it's due diligence that he's asking.
No, basically what he's talking about is right. Yeah. In fact, that's what they call it ESG, environmental, social, and governance aspect of investment. That means that the stakeholders, particularly the project-affected persons, views and concerns are taken on board. You carry them along the project to show them that they are shareholders or they are stakeholders, how the profit will accrue to them, or if the project will affect them adversely, what mitigants you'll bring to the table. That is right. It's lessons learned, and I'm sure my colleague minister in the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure has his work cut out for him to do the needful in this regard.
Good morning, Peter. Tell your guest that Gambians are never happy with government because of rampant corruption. It was unavoidable. Somebody was always going to ask about corruption.
Yes. Well, I think we have taken note of those comments, but I think corruption is it's a menace to development globally, and we cannot water it down. It has to be said as it is. And it is not in our national best interest that this is not addressed. We believe that value for money, public expenditure, and ensuring revenue that accrues to the state flows to the states is the best way forward. Because if you look at the amount of resources that are lost to Africa through illicit financial transactions, it far exceeds quintuple times the official development assistance flowing to Africa. That observation is noted, but efforts are being made through reforms. Some of those reforms are digitalization, use of third parties. Today, as we speak, if you go to the hospital, like RVTH, a bank will collect the revenue from you, and we've seen gains. So it's a work in progress, and this work in progress cannot be won overnight, but it's incumbent on every Gambian to also contribute to the discourse. And the more it is talked about, we believe the more it will be discouraged. And one useful observation we have now is there is a lot of open discourse, and people have the confidence to speak about, literally holding government officials to account. I mean, I know of one platform that every minister literally want to be afraid of whether you'll mention on that. But the discussion should be ongoing. And the more it is discussed, the more it becomes an issue of concern. And that is one way of it serving as a deterrent.
Absolutely.
I think the citizens at large should take this on board and encourage all of us, including myself and everybody, to really turn the corner and try to implement the reforms that we have embarked on. We have digitalization, we have use of third parties, we have procurement efficiencies, and government is also working hard, to ensure that these views are taken on board. But we are not doing very badly in the corruption space. Mainly, what is happening is more discussion is taking place now than used to be the case.
True.
If you look at Transparency International ranking, in 2017, Gambia was ranked 120. As we speak last year, we are ranked 96. So we've moved notches. We've moved from 120 in 2017 to 96. So that's a couple of
24
countries. Yes, and we are not complacent by that. We believe this type of questions, particularly addressed to me, is welcome. And it cannot just stop there. I think the more it is discussed, the more it's talked about, the more it being noticed as a menace in society is noted. And it's like feedback mechanism.
Absolutely.
And that should be encouraged.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
CD is making a lot of sense there, especially as it relates to public enterprises. So, yeah, there's somebody agreeing with you. Please ask the minister whether money realized from the gateway is now being collected by Gamtel or still by State House. During the regime immediately preceding Barrow, everything Gamtel was doing was being collected at State House. The question is that still the arrangement?
I will tell you, categorically clear, no. Gateway revenues are collected by the regulator, that is PURA. It's not even in government. It is third party, it's a government entity, but it's outside the remit of the government. It is collected by PURA. And I think I need to take this opportunity to really, I'm not trying to say things that are not there. Anything I say can be verified. Even I forgot to make mention of that. They say the president's fish money is 150,000. I said, is he killing a cow every day? It is not true. But I mean, there's no harm. Our doors are open. A journalist could have written, what we allocate to the office of the president in terms of the household is far less than 150,000 daily, as they claim. And have been on the floor of the National Assembly respond to this, but still, you cannot just look at the upkeep of State House. You divide by the number of years. You say it's 150 daily. Oh, the president is spending this. No, that's not it. I think, the presidency is very prudent, and we are mindful of that.
So when you give the presidency so much money, that money is given for what? No, when we say
you have the whole state guard battalion.
Okay.
You have the ancillary service, you have the upkeep, the cleaning, the maintenance, a lot of things that are there. So it's not, I could not clarify this enough. And I'm in public space answering this transparently.
Okay.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.